Hello, and welcome to the Investor Guys Podcast, the ultimate podcast for serious real estate investors in the know. Join your host, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills, as they share their expert insights, strategies, and tips to help you succeed in the world of real estate investing. Get ready to level up your investment game with the Investor Guys Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills.
Hey, Bill, how's it going?
It is good, Kev. Welcome in, everybody, to investorpodcast.com, investorguyspodcast.com. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you guys being here. And
taking your time out and joining us while we ramble on about real estate.
Yep. It is, that's what we love doing. You know, real estate is 24/7, and we appreciate you guys being here. And so, Kev, what's on the agenda today?
You know, today I was thinking, let's talk about projects that we are actually working on right now, like right this moment. We don't just play investors on a podcast. We are actual working investors. And I thought it might be interesting just to share a few, because we've got a lot going. I think if we shared all of them, we'd probably take up too much time. But let's share some of the ones we're working on like right now, and provide some insight, like how we found the property, what our plans are for the property, where we are, what stages we're doing, and move on to the next property. I'll let you start.
I went under soft contract based on the attorney drawing it up, but agreement with the seller to buy a property today, this morning, to buy a property with seller financing. So with almost no money down, and it's a property that will probably produce $250 to $350 in net positive cash flow a month as a rental, based on the fact that that's with seller financing, which is typically a little pricier than traditional financing. So that's one going on right there. I've got 4 rehabs going on right now. One, let's see, everything's slowed a little bit based on.
Hold on. Let me slow you down real quick. Yep. Tell us how you found the property for the seller financing. Tell us the story leading up to that.
So we're going to talk in 2 phases of finding property here. Right now, because the market is still hot in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 97% or more of all properties on the MLS. So that's the easy way to go find property. And investors that don't use the MLS, I just think they're doing this financially.
Yeah, especially the ones spending money to buy lists from other people.
Yeah. Then as the market changes and we get into a down market, there'll be a lot of other ways that we will market to attract property coming to us. Right now, you don't have to do that because it's just everywhere. And so I found this property on the MLS. Now, you can do this with, and Kevin and I were just talking about this prior to, you can do this by going to realtor.com, RELTOR, realtor.com. And one of the things you can put your priorities in there are your criteria, your filters in their system. And with that, every property that's on the MLS in a local market automatically filters over to realtor.com, which is the National Association of Realtors site for the public. So they want you going there. They want you looking at what you can find there. And what they want you to do is do a little legwork yourself, find a property, and then contact the agent. So what I was doing is I looked through there, but also in the filters, I'm looking for owner financing. So I look at foreclosures. I look at all kind of different filters for different things. And I happened to be looking for seller financing a few days ago and came across a property. I knew the neighborhood. It happened to be vacant. So I did a drive-by. It had a box on it. I called and was able to get the locked box coded. It was a mechanical box, not an electronic box, because I am not a real estate agent. So on the mechanical box, I was able to get the code on it, and does help owning a brokerage firm, because I was able to call the listing agent on it and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Now, here's the interesting thing. it has a MLS listing, even though it is seller financing, which means that the seller understands they're going to have to come up with some cash to be able to, typically, to be able to pay the listing agent for putting it in the MLS. My down payment is not enough to cover that. And I wouldn't be doing it if they needed that much. And sometimes that is going to be the case. They're going to require it be the 3%. I offered them 5,000 down, said I'm willing to take it on at $5,000 down. I'm not doing any more than that. And that was the end of it. And for me, it was fine with that. So in doing that, they're able to get the property out to the maximum number of people by having it in the MLS. You and I can access it through Realtor.com. And so I go through and I look at filters. And the filter I was looking at was owner financing. And sometimes, depending on where you are in the country, it may say special financing. So I'm always looking at that kind of stuff to basically see if I can pick up a freebie. And so when you find that, then you just start working on the deal. So that's how that deal was found. I knew the area already. As soon as I saw the zip code, I was like, "Ooh, nice." Of course, I had some pictures, looked at a few pictures, liked the way things looked. I'll probably be able to turn it around. I haven't been spent a lot of time, I hadn't been up in the attic yet. So just a cursory look. I don't think I'm going to have to spend anything on it, maybe a good cleaning, and that's about it. So that'll be very good to turn around to quickly get a renter in the property, be able to start pulling some positive cash flow.
And how often do you look through the MLS for seller financing, owner financing?
I'll typically do that a couple of times a month. I don't do it as much as I should do it. I'll tell you that, because most of the time when I look through there, I find something that's worth going after. I'm in the MLS almost every day. So whether you're an agent or you have good access to an agent, or whether you're going through Realtor.com, you should be looking on a regular basis so that when the hot deals pop in, you know how quickly it takes to react to it, and it doesn't get gone because, I didn't look this week, and so you missed something. Most of the time, you wouldn't even know that you missed it. When I'm not looking, whether it's that filter or not, if I'm not looking at the MLS, basically every day, I feel like I'm not doing my job, because it's such an easy way to find property.
It absolutely is. So tell us about the 2 flips that you're working on, the rehabs that you're working on.
I'm actually
how did you find those? What's that for?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you find those?
So let's start with, we'll just kind of roll through them. One of them is a property that another investor had, and had called me, and he had it as a rental property and decided that he was going to sell it. And he said, I know you work with investors, and so I want to give you a shot at this. And I said, great, I'll come look at it. And I did. Love the area. It's a complete gut. I mean, it had been vacant for over 2 years. He was renting it to a family member. That family member died. So that's, whenever you're selling a property and there's been a death, whether it be murder or natural causes, that has to be disclosed.
That's correct.
Suicide has to be disclosed. So a lot of people don't want to buy that. And this was a natural causes death, and other than all that, it was a male member of the family. Other than all that guy's stuff was there, and we had to coordinate him getting all of that out, which took longer than it should have. But so that's a stumbling block for some people. Some people don't want to buy that. So I ran the numbers, asked him what he was looking for. He gave me a number. I offered him $25,000 less than what he was asking for. Because I told him, I was like, look, if you honestly think you can pull that number, then you don't need to sell it to me, because I'm not paying that. He said, oh, and I'm like, here's what I'm okay with, but I'm not, we're $25,000 off. So he said, well, let me talk to my wife. And they called me the next morning and said they would take it. And basically, one of the things that was mentioned to him is, if this is not a high price property. But if you go in and you're selling this through the MLS, you're going to end up having about $8,000 or $9,000 worth of fees between commission and closing costs that come out that we might be able to get around. We were able to close through my attorney, and so it helped the closing costs there, and obviously no real estate commissions involved on either for him or me, or no 6%. That helped. So it's easy for them to come to that decision. Plus, there was no headaches. It was done. It was a one phone call sale for him.
Yeah.
So it's complete gut though. And I'm also adding footage.
Time
to
is
it.
money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time is money. The more time you can save for yourself and for others, the more money that equates to, because that's time you could spend buying something else or looking for something else.
So how do you find a deal like that? You have to be known in the community. And I don't mean where the house is. I mean in the real estate investing community. People have to know that you're actively looking for deals all the time. Agents have to know that, so that when something comes up, just like this guy did, you're who they think about. And if you're not in the process, if you're not at clubs, if you're not at trainings, if you don't have cards that tell people you're an investor, if you're not telling everybody that you know, hey, I'm an investor, if you see anything, holler at me, then when deals like that come up, they don't think about you. And if they don't think about you, it could cost you thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's going to somebody else.
Yeah, because you didn't get it because they didn't think about you. Yeah. So that things like that will fall in your lap if you are doing the right thing. The harder you work, the luckier you get. Well, part of your job is letting people know, hey, this is the kind of stuff I'm looking for.
Exactly. Tell them what you want so that you're not wasting their time.
Yeah. And basically, I'm looking at anything in the Metroplex. It gets when you get to the far reaches of, like it's a stretch. Now people still call McKinney, which is far north, the Metroplex. Well, that's an hour for me. And that's an hour in good traffic. I'm not interested in that.
But you know what? McKinney's been popular.
Oh,
McKinney's been super popular.
Popping, happening place. Yeah. It's just that for me, because I'll go by and check once or twice a week on a property, if I'm gutting it, what's going on with it. I may be there more than that on the front end, just to go in and kind of make sure everything's staying on track. I'm not hanging out and working, but I'm just going in to make sure everything's staying on track. And then after I'm confident that it's going the way I want it to go. A couple times a week, I'll just swing by. I always go by unannounced. I don't want my contractors knowing when I'm going to get there. I'm not trying to catch them not doing something or doing something they're not supposed to, but I'm also not tipping them off to stop if they are. And as you build relationships with these contractors, that becomes less and less of an issue for you. Most of the guys that work with me have been with me for many years. So I'm not worried about that kind of thing, but I don't feel like I owe them hey, I'm coming by. It's my property. So I don't need to announce that I'm coming by. So those, when you look at an area, make sure the people that play in that area understand where you want to be. Now you start small.
Let me interrupt you really quick and let's take a break. Okay.
Oh, is it time already? Great.
It's already, yeah.
We'll talk about.
Let's take a break and we'll get back to that thought in just a second.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Absolution X, limited editions, lifestyle apparel like none other. Get yours today at absolutionx.com.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Get ready for power, for success, for solutions and answers. It's all in one place, www.reallykevin.com. Education, opportunities, coaching, and so much more.
All right, Bill, we're back from the break. And
Welcome
sorry I
back
had
to the
interrupt you,
Investor Guys podcast.
But tell me, finish what you're talking about for your other.
So we were right there.
We were right
So
there.
we went to the break. We were right there. So as I mentioned in Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, one of the things that you want to look at is when you're getting started, don't look at the whole U.S. Don't look at your whole state. Don't look at your whole, like for us, Kevin lives in a big city. Orlando's 2.5 million, 2 million.
Yeah, actually, and we're leaving in 2 weeks back to our home in Palm Beach. So
Cool.
We're done here for the time being. I got a lot of projects. We'll talk about those in a few minutes, but we're headed back to Palm Beach in 2 weeks.
I love Palm Beach, dude. So, you don't want to look at an overwhelming area size. As you are more confident and get more deals done and your experience level goes up, you can easily expand to a larger level. I buy stuff all over the country. I look at stuff all over the country. I have a conference call this afternoon with Oppenheimer Funds and with one of their mutual funds that buys large apartment complexes. I've done some business with them in the past. They've got $8 billion that they're sitting on. And one of the guys called me and said, Barnett, we need property. And of course, it has some very specific parameters to it, but that's something that can be applied nationally. Well, you don't start that way. I'd say start about 30 minutes, no more than that, circumference from where you live, so that you can easily go look at property. And as you start doing your first few flips or your first rentals and you're prepping it for it to go onto the market, that it's easy to get to should you need to. You're asking for a recipe for disaster, in my opinion, if you get way too out. I've told Kev this, one of my favorite stories is a client that ended up becoming a client after she had taken some training elsewhere from LA. And her very first deal was she bought a property in Atlanta. And I said, okay, I just bear with me a second here. What in the world were you thinking buying a property all the way across the country from where you are and it being your very first property? Well, the guy I bought it from, and she bought it from a seminar company, the guy I bought it from said it was a good deal. Well, duh, you think he would say anything different? And I said, now what happened was the property was not getting rented. It got vandalized. And now she's sitting there going, I have a damaged property in Atlanta that can't be rented until it's repaired. I don't know where to go. She starts calling the helpline and got no help. So, we can't refer particular contractors. And that's true. They can't because they don't have any. So she called me and I said, look, I'm not going to work trying to find you contractors to come and do carpentry work in Atlanta and stuff. My suggestion to you is, because this property at your level of experience is always going to be a problem. Let's get you out of it. And if there's any possible way to get you out of it without losing any money, let's do that. And a couple of grand, but is what she lost. But that hole would have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I said, okay, now let's find you a property. Yeah, I get it's going to be a lot more expensive in LA, but it's also going to be there. And until you get your feet under you, don't be venturing out and having to hop on a plane and fly across country if something happens to your property and you need to be there. Could happen. It happened to her, certainly. So start small. As your experience level grows, expand your circle of business. And of course, you'll expand the types of deals you're doing. Pick a niche that you like to start with. It's not a commitment for life. It is, if you want to do a flip, say, that's what I'm going to do. If you want to do a rental property straight out of the chute, that's what I'm going to do. And look at this one narrow lane to get started in. And then as you have success in that lane, whatever it is, even wholesaling, multifamily, doesn't matter. Once you start having success in that lane, then you look at, okay, now I want to expand and bring this other piece into my portfolio of experience as well.
Now I'm going to ask you a little off topic, but when you do locally, when you do cash flow properties, are you doing property management yourself?
No. Great question.
And
so why do I not do property management? Because you're going to hear people say, oh gosh, property managers could cost you 10% of your rent, Bill. That's absolutely correct. You betcha. And why am I not doing that? Because my time and my frustration is worth way more to me than 10%. So think about this, $150 a month in management fee. That means that you're getting $1,500 in rent. They're taking a 10% management fee. And look, it's not likely to be worse than 10%. And as you grow your business, it'll start dropping. I know Kevin Cleveland's down to 3, and it'll drop. The more doors they have with you, that rate will drop. But initially, you're likely to be paying 10%. And then you're going to set a dollar amount where you say, and for me, it's $500. I'm like, hey, look, you know what? If something happens to the property and it's under $500, just do it. Guess what? Almost everything's going to be under 500 unless the HVAC goes out or the roof gets damaged. Once it's something major, it's like, just get it fixed. And, you know, I don't even want them to call me. And this is based on relationship again. It'll be different on the front end, but as that relationship grows and you get comfortable with your management people, then it's, look, you don't even have to call me and tell me that we had something happen to the toilet. We're having to replace it. It's going to cost us $120 and it's going to cost us $75 to have it put in. They don't need to call me and ask me that. That falls within the parameters dollar-wise that I have given them to be able to go spend without having to have my okay. And so when I get the next month's check, it always has an explanation page with it. Most of the time it's blank. Every now and then it'll have, hey, we had to replace the toilet in the master bath. It was $125 and we spent $50 for installation or whatever the numbers are. Okay, great. And then my check is less that month. So if it's a big expenditure, they're going to call you. If it is over the dollar
and making
limit
sure you
set.
have the right property manager, knowing what to look for in a property management company. A lot of property management companies will actually do a 10 to 20% fee for any time they have to do service. A lot of property managers will guarantee their tenant for 6 months that they place in the property. Those are things that you want to know before you go into that. But we'll talk about more of properties and projects we've got going on when we come back.
ReallyKevin.com. Weekly recorded coaching sessions. Learn, grow, find resources, opportunities, and more. You'll find it all at ReallyKevin.com.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Absolution X. Limited editions. Seek your absolution. Lifestyle apparel like no other. Only at AbsolutionX.com.
And we are back with the Investor Guys podcast. I'm Kevin Mills, and this is Bill Barnett. And
Welcome back, everybody.
we were just talking about property management before we went into the break. And the long and short of it is, because we could do a whole show on property management, and we're not
And probably will at some point.
But knowing what you're looking for when you're building a team, and if I have a property that is next door to where I live, I will not do the property management because I don't want to be that person who they're calling saying my toilet is this, my toilet is that, my refrigerator is not working, whatever it is. And those are other things to go over with property management that I don't deal with, or my property managers don't deal with as well. But for another topic, wrap up telling us about the other projects that you have going on, and we'll talk about my projects on a different show.
Okay. So I have another property in the western side of the Metroplex that the last 10 or 12 flips that I've got involved with seem to be guts. That happens a lot, and it's because that's where the values are. And I looked at this property, and I said, if they're going to play, this was an institutional property, institutional foreclosure, bank owned. And I said, if they're going to play, I'm in. If they want to get top dollar. So here's what happens a lot of times when you're looking specifically at the foreclosure market in a particular area, certainly here in the Metroplex. Agents, you have to think about what an agent's going through here a little bit. Banks do not want to deal with you and I directly as a buyer or seller. They would rather deal with an agent because that agent may have 20, 30, 50, 100 properties controlled by that bank, and that bank doesn't want to deal with 20, 30, 50, 100 prospective buyers or more. They want to deal with one person. So they bring in an agent and go under contract, typically to say, hey, you know what? For the next year, all the foreclosures we get will go to you, unless we fire you, but they'll go to you, and that's the agreement. So when I start negotiating, one of the first things I'm looking at when I look at a property is who is the listing agent. Because it's with an institution, it's going to be with an agent. So I'll look at that, and you'll find in most areas there are a very small number of relatively powerful agents that this is their expertise. There's about 6 in the Metroplex that probably handle 70% of all the foreclosures. Now, there's a lot of agents that handle bank foreclosures, but a lot of them will have 1 or 2 listings. There's about 6 that you're going to hit about 70% of the market when you're dealing with those people. So that's one of the first things I'm doing is I'm looking at who's the agent there. Almost all of those, and certainly the 6, I've bought from at some point or another. So when I call, they know I'm serious. And I also have a feel for, based on experience, what it's going to be like dealing with them. Most of them, you are not dealing directly with the agent that is listed. You're dealing with somebody in their office because most of them have teams of 4, 5, 6 people because of the volume that they handle. And so until it gets to be a specific sticking point that you're negotiating, you may or may not talk to the listing agent at all. You may just totally be dealing with somebody in their office. So this is how I found this property. I looked at it, I recognized the seller or the seller's agent, and I was like, good. I bought several properties through her. All went smoothly on my side. So I'm like, good. Gave her a call and said, look, I want to make an offer here. I'm not trying to lowball you, but you got to know that your price is top of the market. So what these foreclosure agents do, one, they typically are going to tell the bank whatever the bank wants to hear price-wise to make sure they've got the business. They can deal with, we got to drop the price later on. They want to get the business. I don't agree with this tactic, but that's their job, not mine. So they get the listings. Then they'll go out and they will price them at the top of the market as if this house was in incredible shape. Now, that's typically done because they're setting those prices based on being in their office and not being at the property. Maybe, maybe not. They have somebody from their team go by and look at the property. A lot of times they don't. They'll just comp it and say, okay, this house will bring 320. Boom, they put it in at 320 when the house won't bring 250. But they don't know that yet. They really are depending on us to tell them, hey, this is not going to bring that kind of number, and here's why. So I said, and I don't want to insult them by saying, well, it's obvious you haven't seen the property. You don't want to say that. But I go, you're probably aware that that's a very aggressive number on this particular property. I'm sending over an offer, just giving you a heads up. It's not what you're looking for the property, but I think it's a fair number, and I think it's a number that your seller will probably consider. And sometimes I get pushback on that, and sometimes I don't. This one, we negotiated $10,000 over the course of about a month, and I was really the only one going after the property.
Which also
now,
helps.
Yeah. So here's an important piece on when you know or pretty much know that you're the only prospective buyer on the deal. You can push that and push it too far. If a deal gets down to where $10,000 makes the difference on whether it's a good deal or a bad deal, it wasn't a good deal to begin with. So I got to a point where they were digging in, I was digging in, and I was like, hey, you know what? I have missed a couple of deals before where I dug in because I was the only person playing until I wasn't the only person playing. And when you lose a deal because you are just, one time, Kevin, I literally just gritted my teeth and I said, I am not paying a penny more than this. I'm sticking here. End of story. Well, it was the end of the story, because about a week later, the agent called me and said, somebody showed up and offered us what we asked you to pay, and we're under contract.
And all that time that you spent is now gone. All that effort, all that headache, all that everything is now gone. It's in the trash can, and you're on to the next one. And that's fine, because that's part of the learning process. And that's exactly what Bill just pointed out.
To that point where you go, you know what? You learn through time the old adage, penny wise, dollar foolish. Been down that path before, done that before. That particular deal was a 60 grand profit deal that walked away from him, disappeared.
And we see a lot of new investors who come in thinking they have to have the absolute bottom price to the penny, or they don't want to do it. If your deal is that skinny, it's not a good deal. Okay. Yep. Bottom line is there are properties that I pay asking price for because I'm still going to make a profit on. The bottom line is do your numbers. Know what numbers you need to run. Know the actual numbers that you're going to put into that formula. And if your formula works, if the numbers work, do the deal. I don't care how ugly or stinky or smelly the property is. If the numbers work, do the deal. I don't care how beautiful or amazing or fantastic the property or the neighborhood or the city is. If the numbers don't work, turn your back, walk away. Don't waste any more time on that deal. It is strictly all about the numbers.
And I know we're running out of time, so I'll make one quick statement, and then I'll be wrapped up here. I see this a lot with new investors, where they will say, hey, I know the seller paid X for the property. And I'm like, yeah, what's your point? Well, they're asking this, and they only paid that. And I'm like, that's completely irrelevant, totally. What they paid for it and when they paid that for it is their deal, not your deal. If the numbers work, then if the seller's making some money, I'm okay with that if the numbers work for me. I'm not trying to squeeze all the profit out of the seller's standpoint. I'm trying to get it the right deal for me. And if the deal's right for me, if I'm buying a property from Kevin and the numbers are right, I don't care how much money he's making. He may be making as much money as I end up making on the property. But if I go in knowing that my numbers are right for the parameters for my business, I'm good with that. So what the seller paid for the property, immaterial, don't waste any time on it. You'll have agents say some of that stuff from time to time. It's pointless and has no bearing on the deal.
And we have no right to deny the person who owns that property their profit, okay? Any more than anybody has a right to deny us our profit on a property that we have that we know the numbers work on. If they're selling the property for a number that works, again, do your numbers. If they're selling the property for a number that works, do the deal. If they're not, and they're not interested in budging, Stop wasting your time. Move
Yep.
on to the next deal. It is that simple. People get fixated on one deal and they have to figure out, how am I going to do this deal? How am I going to make it work? Don't worry about it, because in the time you'll spend trying to figure out how to make that deal work, and it may not ever work. You've let 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 deals pass you by, just totally go under your radar because you were fixated on something that it wasn't going to happen. So look at investing with an open mind. Look at it with open eyes. Don't be afraid to look at a deal. Know how to do the numbers. Bill and I have been doing this long enough. We can look at the numbers and we say, you know what? Good deal. I'm interested. Not a good deal. Not interested. In a lot of particular markets where I deal with, Cleveland, for example, we were talking about this just before we went on the air. There are so many good deals that come through my laptop every single day. I can't even do them. I just don't even bother. I look at five plus a week, and it's easy for me to do 5+ a week in Cleveland every single week, over and over and over again. And if I see like more than 5 in a particular week, I might do 6 or 7. But there are easily 20+ good deals that come through my laptop in Cleveland every single week that I could do. If I'm fixated on one deal, I'm missing out on all those other ones. And same thing with Orlando, where I am now, Palm Beach, Miami area, where we're going to be going in 2 weeks. Same thing with the Dallas Metroplex. Same thing with where you live, okay? There are good deals and there are skinny deals. If you're looking at a skinny deals work sometimes. If you have a motivated seller, then do it. A couple extra bucks is better than nothing, okay? But if your deal is so skinny that you have to spend time on it and you have to waste effort on it, it's not worth doing. Go look for one of those medium or fat deals.
All right, so I know we're over. Thanks for hanging with us. We promise we'll always give you good stuff for spending time with Kevin and I on the Investor Guys podcast. If you want to drop us an email with a topic or a question, you can do it to either Kevin at or Bill at investorguyspodcast.com.
Right.
And make sure you join us for our next episode. Thanks for being here.
And we will see you guys soon. Happy investing.
Thank you for tuning in to the Investor Guys podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated on the latest trends and insights in the world of real estate investing. Also, don't forget to check us out and see all of our episodes at theinvestorguyspodcast.com. Email us, contact@investorguyspodcast.com. Remember, the key to financial success lies in staying informed and taking action. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, happy investing.